Hello, today's the 19th of October 2024. My voice is a bit raspy because this entire week my voice was basically gone, but today it's almost back to normal. So yeah, me and Amy, my sister, we're living on the 17th of October. We officially lived here for 2 months now. So we were working in my friend's school on the 17th of October because it was a Thursday. And so we had planned to afterwards just go to eat like a piece of cake or something just to celebrate that we're living here for 2 months, and the majority of the time we were here alone basically. So my friend Mario joined us and it was a really fun evening. We were laughing a lot, we were talking a lot. We had a great time. It was really lovely. And afterwards we drove back up the mountain to where we live, which is like a 10-minute drive from where we work. And basically everything was fine until I drove around like a very sharp bend, because this road up the mountain is quite bendy. And there is one bend specifically that's challenging enough to get around, and it has like a railing on the right hand side, so the side that you drive on in Spain. So I had a railing on the right hand side, and just as I went around the corner and just got to the end of the railing, an orange small animal, which I believe to be a cat, ran out from that behind the railing and ran right in front of the wheel. And there was no time whatsoever to swerve around it, to go on the brakes, to save it at all. Because right as we approached the end of the railing, the cat came out and was just right in front of the wheel. So we could feel like 2 bumps, first as the front wheel drove over it and then the back wheel drove over it. And I immediately went into like a shock mode, which was like a dream state, because I just remember thinking about if that was actually real, if that actually just happened, if I actually just drove over an animal. So I was like, I felt like I was asleep because I didn't notice anything that was around me anymore. I wasn't concentrated on how I was driving, where I was driving, what I was doing. I was in such a dream state, in such a just shock mode, like not believing that just happened. Like I couldn't process if that actually had just happened. Like I didn't know if it was a dream or if it was real. And I immediately exclaimed like, no, oh my God, no. I immediately went into like a panic and shock mode and basically lost control of the car, but not in the sense that like we crashed or anything bad happened. I was still on our side of the road, everything was fine, but I wasn't at all in the car anymore. Like I wasn't focused at all. Like, I don't remember where my hands were, where my feet were, what I was doing. I have no idea. It just all blanked out because I was in such shock and I just couldn't believe that I just drove over an animal, which very, very likely was a cat. So when I went into this panic and shock mode, the car slowed down a lot, which I didn't notice until Amy told me, Leona, calm down, it's okay, focus on the road, just focus on the road, focus on your driving, it's okay, calm down. Only once she said that to me, I like snapped awake and I was like, okay, yeah, okay. So the car was so slow already that I had to go back into first gear and like start driving again. And then I got up the hill that was the next part of the drive, but I drove very slow, and my body did the work. I knew we were safe. I knew like the car was fine. We were gonna arrive home. Like I just knew that my body was doing the work naturally, driving very safely and slowly. And I was looking for somewhere to pull in. But all the way up the mountain, there's barely any place where you can pull in. So I basically had to drive home. And once Amy snapped me awake, and I was like, okay, okay. And I was like going back into first gear and driving and focusing on that. But once I like got the hang of it again, got into the driving again, that's when I really realized, oh my God, I just drove over a cat. Like I killed an animal which could have been someone's pet. And at first I was like, oh my God, I did this. Like, I killed an animal. It was me who was driving the car. And like, I haven't even been driving so long, like only a year. And now I already killed an animal. Like, there was thoughts like, oh, I shouldn't be driving. Or there was one thought like, yeah, now I deserve to die as well. And like those two thoughts, like, yeah, I shouldn't be driving. Like I'm a bad driver, and like I deserve to die as well. Those were thoughts that just popped up into my mind, but were gone within the next second. I didn't even go into them. I didn't believe them, but I'm still saying it because those were two thoughts that popped into my mind. But at first I was like blaming myself, going back into my old pattern of like self-talk. But then I very quickly snapped out of that and immediately felt so sorry for the animal. I just felt so sorry that the animal had died this way and that I was the one driving over it. And I thought about how like I would never ever want to hurt an animal on purpose. Like that's one of the last things I would ever want to do, is to kill an animal. And it was as if like it reminded me of like if you were to dagger a person, like you would feel how the knife goes in to the person's body. And with this animal, we could feel how the car was driving over it and like squishing it to the ground. And I was breathing so heavily in like a panic kind of mode, and I was like, no, this can't happen. Like, oh my God, I drove over an animal, I killed a cat, like, oh my God. And I had my hand over my mouth, and I was like crying the whole way back, which was like at least another 5 minutes, which maybe doesn't sound much, but it felt like a lot when something like that happens. I was crying the entire way back without a break and had so many thoughts in my mind, but mainly kept re-seeing how this animal just jumped out, and I just always thought that just wouldn't happen. I was just like, that's never gonna happen to me. Like, I'm not gonna drive over an animal. I'll just be like lucky enough that like it won't happen to me. Like it's not gonna happen. But then I just saw this animal jump out right in the second when I turn around and pass the railing, and it jumps out right in front of the wheel. I was so deeply sorry. Like I just kept repeating in my mind, I'm so sorry. I hope you're in a safe space now. I hope you're okay. I hope you weren't afraid or in any pain. I hope you just died immediately and nothing is wrong. And like the worst thing I could imagine is if this animal was afraid, like if it felt some sort of fear, and if the animal was in pain. I really hoped that it just went fast enough for the animal that it couldn't feel afraid or couldn't feel any pain. Those are the thoughts that was hardest for me to deal with. If the animal was afraid or in pain, I'm like, oh my God, it's still like heartbreaking and like so shocking. It was so surreal. I just couldn't believe the entire way back that this had happened. Like I was like questioning the whole time, did this happen? Is this actually real? And to the thoughts that were kind of trying to blame me and trying to beat me down, I was like just watching them, and I felt like they were so stupid, because I asked myself, if I were a really bad person and I didn't care about animals and I didn't care about killing any animals, would I really be crying now? Would I really be like like heartbroken and in shock and feel so sorry and immediately wanted to like reverse what had happened. Like if I were a truly bad person who wishes animals to die or whatever, would I really be crying? Would I really be feeling this way and caring so much about it? No. So that's how I like immediately shut down those stupid thoughts and immediately saw like I am a good person. I do not mean to kill animals. I do not mean to hurt any animals. That's one of the last things I would ever want to do. And I felt so sorry, and I was in such shock and so heartbroken. And every time I just saw that cat jumping out, every time like I just felt this like heaviness and like as if like, oh my God, no, there's no way that happened, like, oh my God. So I think the Thrive program and how I'm learning to deal with my own inner self-talk and my self-esteem and blah, 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 I think that really helped me to not completely like beat myself up and tell me that it was my fault or that I wanted to kill this cat or I should have known better. I could have like saved it. But no, it was an accident. It was a full-on accident. If I had the choice to save the cat or not, I would obviously pick to save the cat. So that was a new thing for me, for my thoughts to actually prove to me that I'm a good person. And to tell me, Leona, you're a good person. Look at how nice you are. Look at how much you care. I never was able to say that to myself. I could never fully believe it. I always thought it was so egotistic. But this time I was like, there's proof that I'm a good person, okay? So stop always beating me down. Yeah, I just couldn't stop crying. Like in between, I had these moments where I could breathe calmly, kind of calm down. But the next moment when I saw this cat jumping out again, I was back to like crying and tears and I couldn't believe it. And I just heard Amy heavily breathing beside me the whole time as well, and I thought she was crying, but turns out she wasn't crying most of the time. She was just in shock as well, and she couldn't believe it and was just breathing heavily. At the end though, she said that like while we turned into like our village, she said that she cried for the last bit, and I think that she was mainly focusing on me because she told me afterwards, like, I knew I needed to focus on you first because you wouldn't even hurt a fly, like you don't want to hurt any animal, so I knew I had to calm you down, and I could feel you losing control over the car. I could feel you weren't in the car anymore. So I knew that was the first thing I had to do. And I just thanked her, and I was so, so grateful that she was there because I have no idea what I would have done. I have no idea when I would have realized that I'm losing control of the car and I'm not really driving anymore. I don't know when I would have been like snapped awake again. It was such a surreal, crazy moment that I basically fell asleep because I was like, wait, did this just happen? Like I was thinking about what had just happened the second before, like driving over the cat, and the only thing that snapped me awake was literally Amy telling me, Leona, focus on the road, calm down, you have to calm down, Leona, it's okay, calm down. And that was so like comforting, first of all, for her to say, it's okay, just to know like it's gonna be okay. And then to like, okay, you have to snap out of this right now because you have to drive us around safely, like you have to be safe in the car. So it allowed me to just for a second not feel so bad about the cat, but to focus on safety, on our own safety and driving and stuff. But yeah, we came home and yeah, Amy immediately called mom and dad, and we were both crying at that point, me and Amy. But I went upstairs first to use the bathroom, and that's when I like really started to cry like hard, because in the car obviously I was also distracted because I needed to sort of focus on the road as well. And so then it like really settled in, I was like, oh my God, we hit this animal. It was walking. We pushed it to the ground and rolled over it and could feel the car literally like rolling over it. So that was the point where I cried the hardest and the deepest. But yeah, Amy was kind of telling the story to Mom and Dad, and they just comforted us and said things like, this happened, it was an accident, you didn't do it on purpose. And they told us examples of when they hit some animals, or when they heard stories from other people who hit animals and how bad they felt and blah blah blah. So Mom especially was focused on me not beating myself up for this and not telling myself that it was my fault, because the thing is, it was me who killed the cat. That's a fact. There's no need to like make it sound any nicer, because it doesn't. And the truth is, I killed a cat. I killed an animal. I was the one driving the car and I drove over it. That's a fact. But the thing is, I don't have to beat myself up for it, because it was an accident. I didn't consciously choose to drive over this animal. There was nothing I could do, but my thoughts are still thinking like, oh, maybe there was something I could do. What if like I could have made it better? But the thing is, what I couldn't have. It was the last second. If I could have, then I would have, but I couldn't. Anyway, while we were on the call, I was like, my voice was so like gone, so raspy, so it sounded really funny, but I was like crying at the same time. So I was like, had such a raspy, high-pitched crying voice, and I was just telling some of the story, and just like I could barely finish the sentence because I was already thinking again about what had just happened, about rolling over the cat. So even before I was finished the sentence, like I had to burst back into tears and was breathing heavily and like could barely speak, because I was just so in shock and so upset and so sorry. But yeah, we told them the story, and I kind of felt like I really wanted to call my friend Mario, and we haven't we've never like called each other before or whatever, but he always said that he's there for me if I ever need to talk or want to talk and stuff. So I kind of felt like I really just wanted to talk to him about it. So that's what I did then, and he called me, and we were talking for like 10 minutes, and he said the same things Mom and Dad did, like things like this happen and it's over. Try and accept that it is what it is. You can't go back, like it happened, and so, like you didn't do it on purpose. And then the next, like we told our sister Alana about it too. But the next day, which was yesterday, I had the call with my coach from the Thrive program, and I talked to her about it. She said not necessarily the same things. Because the Thrive program is focusing on how I deal with things and what my thoughts are like, what my beliefs are like. So she wasn't really like saying, oh, the poor cat, or oh no, how did that happen? She was asking me, how did I deal with that? What did my thoughts say? What did I believe? Like, how were my coping skills? Things like that. She was much more focused on that, which was really nice for me to see as well. That probably like a week ago, before I did the self-esteem chapter in the Thrive program, like a week ago maybe, when this would have happened, I probably really would have like told myself that it's my fault, that I'm the one to blame, I'm a bad person. But because of the self-esteem chapter, the thoughts and questions came in like, would a bad person really be crying right now? Would a bad person really feel so sorry? So I could see the changes in myself as well. And it was so like new to me that the thoughts came into my mind so strongly, and I believed them, that like I'm a good person. Look at how kind I am. Look at how caring I am right now. And the thing is, what surprised me is that I believed those thoughts. I believed them. I was like, yeah, I am a good person. I'm crying right now. I'm feeling so sorry, and I would never want to hurt an animal. I'm so caring and I'm so kind. It's like the first time I actually believed those thoughts, which is so new to me, because usually I'd be like, yeah, maybe, but like I did this and that was bad, and like I'm not always kind, and like, oh no, but it was my fault as well. So I'd like believe them to a certain extent, but then like brush them off. It's like, no. But then this time I really believed them. I was like, look at me, I'm a good person. Yeah, but during that night, so from Thursday to Friday, I woke up in between and I immediately felt like a shock, like, wait, did that actually happen? Did I actually drive over the animal? And that's when the thought came in strongly, like, oh my God, what if the animal like felt fear? What if it was afraid? While I drove over, what if it felt like so much fear for its own life? Like that's the worst thing I could imagine. So yeah, during the night that made me cry, and it held me awake for a couple of minutes, but I knew I was gonna be fine, and I'm so grateful to have that stability inside myself, which I've built up after my depression. Because after my depression, I reflected on everything that I went through, and it was such traumatic, intense, surreal experiences that I had. And after my depression, when like reflecting on all of that, it built up my self-esteem so much and my stability inside myself, because I realized I made it through all of that. I handled all of that, which felt impossible to handle, which I thought was going to kill me. I thought I was going to die because the emotional and mental pain was so high. I literally thought it was going to kill me, but it didn't. I survived. I made it through. I went through all of that and I did it. I handled it and I made it out the other end. So that's how my self-esteem rose so much. And since then, there's just this stability that whenever something happens, I somehow always know, maybe not as intense other times as it is in, certain situations, but there's still always this part of me which just knows I will be fine. I will be. There's no questions asked. I will be fine. So I knew that during the night, but it was still absolutely shocking. And then the next morning I woke up a little bit like depressive, a little bit down. The experience still wasn't fully processed. The evening before I also had a few seconds of like silence when Amy was gone for a shower and I was alone downstairs. Yeah, I listened to a song which is called I Love You, I'm Sorry, I think. That was just like, that's exactly what I want to tell this cat. Like, I love you so much and I'm so, so sorry. And I just started crying and just had to like process it, because I didn't have time to process it. It was all so fast, so much. So when I had this moment of silence, I could feel how like my mind was processing it happened, and it already felt like lighter, not such a heavy burden on my shoulders and stuff, but I was still crying and like felt so sorry. And then in the kitchen, when I made myself something to eat, I wasn't crying, but then I thought about the situation again and started crying again, and I was like, no, I don't want this to be true. Like, I don't want this to have happened. And that's the moment I just leaned against the wall and just cried and just thought about the cat. And I had this nice thought that like, the cat probably forgave me right away because it knows it was an accident. So as soon as it died, it had probably already forgiven me. And I just imagined how maybe now this cat is like my spirit guide or like my protector or something. Like that was just such a lovely thought that I had. But yeah, while I was in the kitchen leaning against the wall, I just prayed that God takes care of this cat, that the cat died fast without pain and without fear, that the cat forgives me, that I'm so sorry. I just prayed for the best. I just prayed that everything is okay, and yeah, that helped me to just process it a bit more. But yeah, I was okay. I mean, no, I was, yeah, that morning I wasn't doing great, but I knew I would be fine. But again, I didn't know how long it would take me to process this experience. Yeah, I didn't know how long I was gonna need until I felt like I can handle the situation now, I can let it go. But yeah, when Amy and I prepared schoolwork then for next week, I had to print something, so I went upstairs and I was by myself. And then again, I thought of the car, the cat running out, the car, like literally the wheels like running over it. And then I just thought of our ex-neighbor's cat who used to come over to me, and we had such a lovely connection, and I loved this cat, and she was such a like lovely part of the hard time that we were going through as a family and the sadness that I constantly felt. And this cat just was there and just laid on my lap and let me pet her, and I just loved her and I took care of her, and it was so nice whenever she was with me. So I thought about this neighbor's cat and thought really about any cat or any animal, and I was like, oh my God, like this could have been someone's pet. This could have been someone's pet, and I would never want to hurt an animal. And I thought about this neighbor's cat that I cared for so much. I was like, oh my God, I would never ever want to run over one of you. Like, oh my God. Yeah, and then just before my call with my coach from the Thrive program, I was lying outside listening to music in the sun, and then again tears streamed, and I just kept picturing this animal jumping out and just hitting the wheel. But yeah, after my call then I felt much better. I wasn't 100% fine, but I was definitely more fine. Today I'm even finer. I'm even better. Because yesterday evening was so fun. So Mario came over and we played some games here, Amy, me and him. And yeah, we just had so much fun. We were laughing, and yeah, it was just so funny. I really like him. And then we were debating if we should go to the pub across the road because there's like live music playing, and his friend apparently was gonna sing as well. Yeah, so we just wanted to see if we want to go out, but I was like debating, I didn't really know. Amy already had made her decision, she didn't want to go. Yeah, it was between me and him then. So we ended up going, and it was so fun. Like, there was like a 7-course meal or something, and it was like small meals, but like still it was like 7 courses or something. I was like, geez, I barely ate anything. I ate a couple things. He ate more and stuff. He ordered it for himself anyway, and and we were like in the front row. There was like a table right in the front row, and that was the only one that was like left, so we sat down there and we felt so special, like we get the front seats and stuff. But yeah, the music, it was lovely, it was emotional. I don't drink obviously, so I didn't drink any alcohol, or I had a Fanta. But the main thing is just the conversations we had and the laughs we had, and it's just so funny. And he has this best friend, and I just asked like how they got so close, and he told me the story and stuff. And then he showed me some pictures of like her, which is his best friend, and another guy, and them three are apparently like very close friends. And then we were kind of talking about her again, and then I was just like, and I met her. She's the one I went to Alicante with Mario and her. So I met her, but I was always questioning like if they're dating or if they're just friends, and I was pretty sure they're just friends, but I didn't know exactly. So it kind of came to that where I was just brave enough to ask like, but you are just friends, right? And I was like quite nervous, but I just had to ask quickly so that my mind wouldn't like make up a story and make me feel way too nervous to ask. And he immediately responded with like, of course, like as if it was like certain, like come on, like you must know that, of course we're just friends. And it was so funny. It was so funny. And then I didn't say more because I was like, oh God, was this like okay to ask? And then there was just a few seconds of like complete silence, so we didn't like say anything. We were listening to the music, and then he suddenly goes like, but what the fuck, I would have told you if she was my girlfriend. And then I was just laughing like, what the fuck? And I was like, yeah, maybe, but I didn't know. So I wanted to know. And then I asked, so you don't have a girlfriend then? And he was like, no. So yeah, he officially doesn't have a girlfriend, which I was wondering for a while, but I was very sure he didn't have a girlfriend, or else he would have mentioned it. I was very sure, but still, there was still that question in my mind all the time. And I just wanted to know like what level him and his female best friend are at. Like I never want to like break them apart. Like maybe like I never want to break them apart. Like it's a lovely friendship that they have and stuff, but I just wanted to know what level they're at, if they're like together or whatever. But yeah, so it was so funny the way he reacted. It felt like he expected me to know that he doesn't have a girlfriend. So to me it was like a sign that like, I don't know, to me it was like, okay, we're getting a step closer here. No, it was so funny though. It was it was so funny, and we had a great time, and I just really like him. And yeah, I feel like now especially there's even more potential. Now maybe he kind of knows a little bit that I like him. I don't know. But yeah. And I was like, Leona, of course I don't have a girlfriend. Like, what are you saying? As if he was like, no, I have that place reserved for someone. Okay, stop. My mind is going crazy. Anyway, this morning I texted Mom that he officially doesn't have a girlfriend, and she was like, can I ring you? Can we call? And she wanted to know the full story. And she just said that she's so happy for me that I finally have people in my life who I want to be friends with, and I finally have this social life that I like yearned for and wished for so many years, and just didn't get it, and had no friends, and the whole world to me seemed like there's no person out there for me, no one I want to be friends with, no one I ever want to date. Like, to me, my world was just the people in my class, and they were all absolute assholes. So to me, everyone in the world was an asshole to me. No one in the world was trustworthy. I didn't want to be friends with anyone. I didn't feel like I could be myself around anyone, and I didn't think anyone like that would be out there until I met him. And I was like, Geez, Leona, you haven't met you haven't met everyone in the world yet. And see, there are people out there where you can be yourself. There are people out there that you want to be friends with, that you like, that you just enjoy hanging out with, and you just feel like you can completely be yourself around, and you actually like the version that you are around him and stuff. It's like, it's so healing and so great that I finally have a bit of like a social life as well, which I didn't have since I was 11. So yeah, it was so lovely and so healing, and Mom was just so happy for me. So supportive. But yeah, I feel like we've gotten a step closer, him and me, and it's like, okay, what's gonna happen next? But I'm not like waiting for anything to happen. I'm not like waiting for him to make a move, or like, not at all. I'm like so relaxed about it. I'm like, if it's meant to happen, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in the right time. If I feel like there's a right time to make a move, then I would also do that. I'm not gonna like wait for him to make a move, and I'm not like waiting for the final moment where we can like get closer or whatever. I'm just gonna see what happens. I'm gonna let it unfold naturally, and if the time is right, it's right. And I think that there's absolute potential for us, and I just like him so much. Yeah, and then last weekend we actually met up with him, his best friend who I went to Alicante with, and with another one of his friends who Amy and me met once before as well. So yeah, so we were 5 of us, but his best friend barely looked at us. She barely looked at us. She didn't really greet us. She didn't talk to us. She only spoke in Spanish the whole time with the other girl. And Amy and I don't understand Spanish, so we were just sitting there very like awkward, didn't understand a word. It was just a weird situation, which I don't really have to go into. Like, his best friend was apparently not having a great day that day, but still, it's not an excuse to like treat people that way and completely ignore people and just like not even try to include them or to speak English, because all 3 of them are okay at English. Like, they're all able to speak a bit of English, but it didn't seem like they really tried. Anyway, so Amy and I went home then, and I just felt weird about the whole thing. I was upset, and I felt like I don't know, I felt a bit like he was different around them as well, because he barely spoke to us anymore when they were there. And I know he was like involved with their conversation, but still, it just felt like we were ignored and we were kind of like in the way. So the next day, because I wasn't feeling great about it and I just had negative thoughts, I just openly spoke with him about it. And that's like one thing I knew from the start, and I've always told myself, like, a true friendship to me is when you can talk about things like this openly and you listen to the other person. And even though you might disagree, that's fine. You might fight sometimes, it's fine. But for me, it was so important, if I ever have a boyfriend or if I ever have a friendship, that it's important for me to be able to tell the truth, to tell how I truly feel, to speak about things openly. So I was so glad that I was able to do that with him. And yes, I was scared to like offend him or that he took it personally. I was scared to, say the wrong thing, but I knew it was important for me to stand up for myself and just to clarify a few things and just tell him how I felt about it. And yeah, we just openly spoke about it. Nothing was wrong, no argument, nothing. It was all fine. And that to me was just also so healing and so lovely to see that there are people out there who are willing to listen to me, who allow me to speak my truth, who don't take it personally right away, but just can see my side and, are open to listening to me. It's just so new to me, such a new experience, but so lovely. So yeah, that was very nice. And yeah, this morning he texted me good morning again. So we're like texting every day, and I feel like maybe now we're at the point that we want to get to know each other closer, and not just as friends, but maybe see if there's potential for something else. But I'm scared that I'm just making all of this up in my mind. But anyway, it's part of life. I know with him, it's just different. It's special, and if anything, we're gonna be and stay close friends. And it's just cool. Okay, and I don't know, I'm like, I have a crush, which I haven't had in years, since I was 11 again, or 10. So like, it's such a nice feeling, and it's not just like that I like him, it's that I like who I am around him. I like who I get to be around him. I like the way I feel around him. It's not just like I'm fully focused on him. I'm focused on myself and how I feel around him, how I act and am around him, and it's just so nice. Yeah, it's a nice feeling, and I'm just enjoying that right now, being like, I don't know, in love, or like having a crush. It's just nice. And I know that like often it ends in like drama or whatever, or you get heartbroken, and I know that's like, those are possibilities, but right now in this moment I'm not heartbroken. Right now I'm feeling great, and I'm just enjoying this moment, and I'm processing it as a good experience, because it was a good experience. And I'm processing how there are people out there who I can actually like and want to be friends with, and who I like being around, and I like myself around them and stuff. So that is all a potential, and that's all possible, and that's all real. So I'm processing that, and it's so lovely. Yeah. So thank you very much for watching. Take care, and until the next time, and always process your good experiences. Process them. Notice that they happened, that it was real. You made it. You did it. Like, it was you and stuff. Like, process them. Okay. See you. Bye. When talking with my coach, the biggest thing I actually realised is when we came across the topic why I feel such strong emotions, and how in a lot of situations I just feel them very strongly, and I often feel the need to feel them strongly as well. And she then mentioned how if you feel the need to feel such strong emotions, or if you just always seem like you're experiencing such strong emotions in situations where other people wouldn't feel such strong emotions, then it's because sometime in your past you had an experience where only through strong emotions you were seen and you were heard. And so the belief is still in me nowadays that only through strong emotions will people understand what I mean, will people see me and hear me. And I immediately knew that was in relation to my childhood trauma of being locked in the room. The only way I got attention from my parents was not by just crying and calling out for them. It was literally by screaming my lungs out, crying so hard, feeling intense pain, and like knocking down my bedroom door. Like, that was the only way I got their attention, and I was heard. Like, physically, of course they heard me beforehand, but I wasn't heard or seen emotionally. And even that sometimes wasn't enough for anyone to come and rescue me. So that explains why oftentimes I feel the need to feel strong emotions, because otherwise I think other people can't understand what I'm going through. They won't understand it unless it's super intense and I explain it in an intense way. Only then they will actually understand what I'm going through and will actually see me. And another reason just for why I have such strong emotions in in my life or in situations is because only when I had strong emotions in the past did someone actually come to like help me, rescue me, be there for me, whatever. So yeah, that was such like an eye-opening moment and such a realization moment, which I hadn't thought about it like this before, and it made so much sense. And yeah, I just thought that was so interesting and fascinating. Yeah, I just love learning more, deep diving into like all the past stuff that were horrible, like untangling all the knots and just like being a detective and finding out what's going on and actually getting to understand myself and stuff. I just love that. And now I understand that part of myself, why I often feel like only through strong emotions I'm a good person. Or like I also with the cat, for example, I had the thought in my mind, if I didn't cry now and if I didn't feel such strong emotions about it, would that make me a bad person? So that's everything I learned once again from this childhood trauma of being locked in the room. The only way I'm going to be seen, heard and understood is if I have extremely intense, painful emotions. So yeah, that was so interesting, which obviously it's just a belief, which I can change. And I don't have to feel so much pain anymore. And like, I can see that maybe people will understand me even if it's not super intense emotions, or maybe they just won't understand me and like, that's okay, you know? So yeah, that was so interesting.